You Rangers are about to be D-U-N-E!
We'll be Dune? Do you mean done?
No, he said what he meant. For he is the Kwisatz Haderach! Welcome, my friends, to Power Rangers Dino Fury. Beast Morphers was pretty damn good. It mined a lot of Power Rangers lore, both older and newer, to show that continuity is not necessarily a hindrance to telling a good story, even if parts of it echo what has happened before. After Beast Morphers, Simon Bennett, who had been a frequent director on both Ninja Steel and Beast Morphers, became the official showrunner. And wow, you never really realize how nice it is to have someone actually talk about behind the scenes of the show and the difficulties of making it until you actually have someone doing it. Bennett has been quite open about the production of the show, the difficulties he faced working under other seasons, and done a healthy amount of promotion, even pointing out that with Dino Fury, they're more acknowledging the adult fan base. Now that part I'll get into more in another video, but for now, some behind the scenes on past seasons is interesting. It's amazing hearing about some of the mandates they had not just for Ninja Steel, but for Beast Morphers, since while Beast Morphers actually felt like the reins were loose, apparently Saban still had some creative input, and thus mandates and restrictions were put on the series. For Ninja Steel, while the show had a ninja theme, the show was not allowed to do any ninja stuff other than being stealthy. I mean, sure, you kind of expect that a children's show wouldn't have assassinations or anything, but it's still odd that other stuff was off the table. They were required to have 2 standalone Victor and Monty scenes in each episode due to how the show was filmed, more on that later. Episodes had to have a moral of the week, and ADR during fights had to be filled with puns. There was apparently a Saban executive who loved the fart jokes, insisted on them. His exact words were, they insisted on auditioning catalogs of fart sounds to select individual sound effects that were to be used in the show. I used this image a lot in my Twitter watch thread of Dino Fury, but I think it really applies here. Serialization threads were not allowed or heavily discouraged, save for first and last episodes. Evil Rangers were not permitted, save for mind control, which is especially weird when they've had Evil Rangers before, plus Beast Morphers had what could be considered Evil Rangers, even if their outfits were a bit more outlandish. Terminator, Blaze, and Roxy were destroyed all the time in Season 2 because episodes had to be self-contained, which is just head-scratching because then why isn't Scrousel destroyed in every episode? And the bad guys had to be blown up. Continuity between seasons was also loosely banned, fearing that the young kids in the audience wouldn't retain information. It does make a little sense, except anecdotally, as a kid, it was the serialized stuff that kept me watching. Obviously not the same for everyone, but I was in Power Rangers' target demographic in 1993, and multi-parters and ongoing story threads kept making me want to see more. Apparently, RPM was seen as a failure because it was too adult, and certainly not because it was poorly advertised and placed in a terrible time slot. What goes through the heads of some executives, I wonder? You'd think with access to so much information about kids, what they watch and how they play and what sort of shows they gravitate towards, that they'd understand this stuff better and not have that kind of mindset. But with Dino Fury, Saban was officially out of any consulting on the show. Still, mandates existed and there was some meddling, the big one being that Dino Fury was not intended to be 44 episodes like the last few seasons had been, but only 22. Apparently it was fairly simple to stretch out the arcs they had planned for the story, spread them out across 2 seasons worth of episodes, and I applaud that, especially with something in particular that they added in we'll get to. For now though, let's see what they did with Power Rangers without Saban's leash. We begin the season with Destination Dinohenge, and if in response to my complaining last time about the theme song being put halfway through the episode, we have the theme song right at the start. And it's not great. At least with the one in Beast Morphers, the occasional techno-y music and digitized speech worked with a technologically focused show, but this one's about dinosaurs. A lot of it is just repeating Go Go Power Rangers over and over like the Beast Morphers theme, save for one spot where the singer speaks. It's probably the most unique part of the song, and I don't even think it's that good. Honestly, if the themes didn't say their season names in them, I'd probably have a hard time distinguishing between Beast Morphers and Dino Fury's themes. Dino Fury Evolution, Revolution. We open in the city of Pine Ridge and meet this woman, Amelia, and we can see by the stickers on her moped that she's a big fan of the History Channel. She works at BuzzBlast, a news and pop culture review site, and has been having a hard time convincing her boss, Jane, to do a story on a supposedly haunted area of the nearby forest called Dinohenge. Apparently, in between video reviews of neon lipstick that probably gives you cancer, she has been trying to write up stories about the supernatural for some time now. Jane's reluctant, but since Amelia actually does get her work out on time, she's willing to give this one a shot.
But I want a factual story about a local landmark. Nothing paranormal.
Watch as it turns out she was a student of Mr. Burley from Megaforce, and she uses him as her primary source. She heads out with her... well, I was going to say primitive Ghostbuster equipment, but honestly, given how sleek that thing looks, it almost seems like it probably is more advanced than that. Still, the device she has can supposedly detect and capture ghosts.
Wow. A ghost. Finally.
And that's when she's attacked by xenomorphs. She launches an electrified net at the supposed ghost, but it's just a bicyclist, wearing a raincoat on this perfectly clear day. She asks the guy, Ollie, what he's doing out there.
Online reviews said it was a great place to get zapped.
As someone who's been doing reviews for 15 years, it's always incredible to see how online reviews have changed over all this time. These days, you could have a 3-hour video on getting zapped by nets and no one would be shocked. Except for the people being zapped by nets. Ollie is trying to get to a meeting with his mother in Dinohenge and has lost his way. But fortunately, Amelia has... a map. A physical map. A folded-up physical map. Is it weird that it isn't her cryptozoology hobby that ruined my suspension of belief, but her using a physical map does? They reach the henge, a series of dinosaur statues coming out of the ground. Ollie's mother is there, an archaeologist studying the statues. Theoretically, they're millions of years old, but no one is sure who put them there and why. She launches a drone to try to scan for structures under the statues, but the scan just makes the eyes of the statues glow and the area shakes. When things settle, they do find a chamber underground. Before they can investigate further, Park Warden Garcia shows up and points out that none of them have a permit to be there and orders them to leave and come back with him to file a report on this. As they pack up the equipment, Ollie learns that Amelia was chasing ghosts and balks at the idea of them existing, the two clearly frustrated by the other's beliefs. However, it seems the henge is popular today as a purple figure teleports in. He blasts a hole in the ground. Ollie's mother and the warden have walked off at this point, though should still be close enough to hear the blast. The two follow him down and discover a high-tech base. The purple figure finds some kind of lizard woman and blasts her.
Firstly, I'm a dinosaur, not a lizard.
I mean, she's right, but it feels like semantics aren't important right now. The purple figure introduces himself as Void Knight and says she can't fight his power. But then she unveils a Red Ranger, Void Knight specifically calling it a Power Ranger. However, the Red Ranger doesn't emerge from the chamber it was in, and Void Knight presses the attack. Ollie grabs a nearby sword and defends her, Amelia following through with the electrified net. The dinosaur woman tries to give them a key to activate the henchman to fight him. Oh hey, neat wordplay. But yeah, Void Knight intercepts the key and activates them himself, revealing our foot soldiers.
Any ideas?
I've done 3 years of karate.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, but have you ever locked arms and legs with two other people and spun them around in a circle? Because that's real martial arts right there. With a bit of more realism, it's not like they're doing a bunch of fancy karate moves or anything with this. Learning karate in a safe gym environment isn't really the same thing as fighting for your life against robots armed with pikes. However, the swords the two have start glowing. The swords form morphers for them, and the dinosaur lady gives them keys to activate them. The two morph and fight off the henchman, Ollie mentioning that if you've watched the news before, they get Zords too. Which, just to spoil this now, we're back in the Prime Universe, though that does make the disbelief in the supernatural kinda head-tilting. Void Knight finally finds the energy source he's been looking for, the Sporix. He takes the chest of them, but the dinosaur woman is finally able to wake up the Red Ranger, Zaito. Zaito recognizes the armor Void Knight is wearing, knowing it's stolen. The Sporix end up released, and they fly out of the chamber, Void Knight fleeing as well. He collapses the tunnel behind him to keep them from pursuing. The Sporix fly into the air, but one drops down and forms into a monster, whom he recruits to retrieve the rest. Back in the command henge, our heroes demorph and Zaito is revealed to be a telepathic alien. And instead of being entirely human-looking like Andros, he's got antennae like Mantis from Guardians of the Galaxy. He also introduces the dinosaur woman as Solon. She reveals to him that he's been in stasis for 65 million years.
I've still got that library book.
Zaito explains via telepathic flashback that his planet, Rafcon, was invaded by the Sporix. Leading the Knights of Rafcon against the Sporix, which, as we saw, hatched into monsters, he defended his world as best as he could against them, but ultimately failed. The planet was devastated, and the Sporix left for their next conquest, Earth. He and the Knights followed them, fighting alongside dinosaurs to defend the planet, until the Sporix learned to grow giant-sized. Before they could be wiped out, though, they were saved by ancient beings called the Morphin Masters. Okay, this requires some deep lore diving, like the kind of reference that only makes sense if you're an obsessed weirdo like me, or, thanks to the internet, have access to fan wikis. Way back in the original first season of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, Episode 7, Big Sisters, which consequently was the episode that introduced the Rad Bug, Zordon mentioned a group of sorcerers known as the Morphin Masters that imbued a bunch of power into power eggs to be protected from the forces of evil. The chests containing the eggs could only be unlocked by the touch of an innocent child, because wizards are goofy like that. They were just a bit of lore fill, just an excuse to use some Sentai footage, nothing else about them ever mentioned again, until the Boom Studios comics decided to pick up on that and greatly expand the lore on them. And I guess they decided to feed it back into the TV series. It's just such a weird thing to bring back, a reference out of nowhere to a teensy tiny bit of otherwise forgotten lore. It'd be like if they referenced Lokar, the giant head wizard thing that Rita called for help twice, and was, like the Morphin Masters, so inconsequential I never mentioned them in the original Season 1 video. The Masters had come to help, imbuing the 6 remaining Knights with the power of the dinosaurs, freezing the animals in statues while granting the Knights their power. And for whatever reason, this season is not called Dino Knights or Dino Swords or Dino Masters or 1,000 other better names than Dino Fury. Apparently, Dino Knights was the working title for the series as it was being developed, but Hasbro had the final say and made it Dino Fury. And yet that's what the Morphin Masters called them, additionally giving them Zords to fight the giant Sporix. While the Rangers were successful in stopping them, the other 5 Knights were killed in the battle. Zaito and Solon were able to recapture the Sporix, but they're basically indestructible. The best they could hope for was to contain and hide them. The Sporix that are loose will hibernate until they're ready to hatch, so our heroes need to train and ready themselves for their eventual attacks. This is an okay season opener, starting as slowly with only a few characters, but the writing and acting feel a bit weaker than others. Obviously, mixed acting is just something you expect when the season is just starting out, but a lot of line delivery just feels flat for some reason. The dialogue just doesn't have anything too funny or memorable is all, and when Zaito reads their minds for the first time, it feels very much like an informed attributes kind of moment when he lists off their personalities. Sure, we'd already seen their personalities demonstrated before this, but I don't know. Something just seemed off about this compared to other season openers. Might also just be that something about Zaito's antennae seem weird and off-putting, like an uncanny valley thing for these little flesh-colored tubes sitting on his head. I don't know why they bother me when other shows and movies have done the same effect, but there's something about them that's just yeesh here.
Sure, it's phallic. Why wouldn't it be?
Anyway, we continue in Sporix Unleashed. Amusingly, it begins with the 3 practicing their morphing poses and calling out the phrase. Just to get it out of the way, I'm not too fond of the Morphers. They're basically just a rehash of the Dino Thunder Morphers, but with a larger back and the addition of a key. I do like how they spin the key after inserting it. It's just the design of the Morpher itself feels a bit underwhelming. Something else I have a minor issue with is the outfit. Not a huge problem. I like the overall design and the night helmet visors, though admittedly it seems like those would impede vision a bit. But what bugs me is the gray half of the outfits that makes the costume asymmetrical and consequently busier. Sure, gray is already part of the outfit by way of the helmets and gloves, but I think they would have looked better as just one color all around. Anyway, speaking of that key, Ollie and Amelia point out that there should be powers for 6 Rangers and wonder if they can recruit people. But Zaito says that the other 3 keys were lost along with the original Rangers. They can also explicitly teleport with, honestly, the best teleportation effects we've had in the franchise, in my humble opinion. Megaforce's wispy teleport effect was neat, but then they forgot they could do it afterwards. This one actually looks like they're being beamed away. Solon's gotten the base defense systems up again, so only they can enter, and she's found the scanning device that Void Knight had been using. We saw him drop it in the first episode. Ollie thinks he can combine it with his mom's drone to scan for all the Sporix, but Zaito and Amelia say their priority should be to warn the town. They bring Zaito to the city, and of course he's amazed by how much has changed in 65 million years.
Where are the dinosaurs? I'd love to see some.
Well, in another dimension, you can find them in a zoo, but I wouldn't recommend going there unless you want the space-time continuum to be repeatedly smashed in the face with a rock. Zato can also retract his antennae to appear more human. They head to the Park Service HQ.
But remember, no one can know that you're Rangers.
Why? Sure, we know all the logical reasons for a secret identity, but why does Zato care? Humans didn't even exist 65 million years ago, and I doubt they were keeping it secret from the T-Rexes lest they invade their privacy on dinosaur social media. Anyway, without that evidence of them morphing or something, naturally Warden Garcia thinks they're full of it. Still, Ollie's mom believes him, and he shows her the scanner and tells her his idea. Then we see them try to convince Jane to get the word out about the Sporix. But first we get our hinting of this taking place in the Prime universe, as she unveils that she's getting a robot assistant to take over for her in the future. And it's manufactured by Hartford Robotics. I do wonder how Mac feels about mass-produced robot servants for people given his origins, though maybe they aren't programmed for sentience like he was. But yeah, after wowing everyone with J-Borg, as she's called, they're interrupted by video footage of a Sporix beast forming, and our heroes go to deal with it. Void Knight and his minion return to Dinohenge to try to retrieve the scanner, but find it protected by a force field. They observe Ollie's mom working on mounting the scanner to the drone. Our heroes intercept the Sporix beast, and we get our first proper morphing sequence, and I actually quite like it. It's got a lot of cool visual elements. The Rangers kind of floating in the air as the suit forms around them, what appear to be constellations around them. But of course, what would dinosaur rangers have to do with cosmic stuff, am I right? Honestly, the only part that doesn't quite work is their exclamations of what dinosaur ranger they are. The acting just feels more subdued than it should be. They try to add an echo effect, but it's barely audible when it doesn't seem like they're shouting it. Additional booster keys can be used by the Rangers to provide new armor and enhancements, as demonstrated with a stink bomb attack with flatulence noises added in. Yeah, I know this is Sentai's footage fault, but still, thanks, Dino Fury! Beast Morphers had made me forget that little addition of the last few years. Anyway, the monster that was serving as Void Knight's minion, Shockhorn, arrives and summons henchmen to fight the Rangers. I'm not sure how they do so, though. Yeah, Void Knight took control of the ones in the command center, but that was like a dozen at most, and several got destroyed. How is he making more to summon up for fights? Anyway, the Sporix beast is recruited to joining Void Knight, since apparently these things love taking orders. Her words, not mine. After they leave, our heroes learn that the video of the Sporix is getting around, and thus people are being informed of it. Ollie tells the others what he did with the scanner, but Zato points out Void Knight might return and look for it. And indeed, they find her being attacked by the monsters. After the Rangers distract them, she sends the drone crashing down into Shockhorn, and I guess the drone was loaded with explosives for some reason because it becomes a friggin' bomb. Shockhorn grows giant-sized and Zato heads out in the T-Rex champion Zord to take him on. The thing is a battle mode, and credit to the original Zord footage from Ryusoldier. Sorry about the pronunciation. Not sure if it's just filmed with a high-speed camera or if the suit was designed for more agile movement, but it looks like it can actually move pretty quickly despite the standard bulky suit action. Anyway, they blow it up, but destroying a Sporix beast doesn't actually kill it. It just reverts to the fungal form and with increased power. Void Knight manages to grab it before the Rangers can. The Rangers put out an official PSA warning people about the Sporix, even setting up a hotline and direct messaging service to contact them if someone finds one of them. The hotline, by the way, was real. The production team set it up and they would answer with pre-recorded messages from the Rangers. Obviously, it's defunct now. Meanwhile, Void Knight and the other Sporix beast, Mucus, set up shop at this vault-looking place. Pretty sure this is where Bunny Smiles Incorporated keeps their old animatronics. Actually, Void Knight refers to it as Area 62, an old government installation now long abandoned. He uses the Sporix he retrieved in a machine to power it up, saying he needs a lot more before it's ready. At the beginning of episode 3, Lost Signal, we get some pathos for Zato as he recalls his mother giving him a gem when he became a knight, and in turn talking to Amelia about how much he misses Rafcon.
Few people survived, but that was millions of years ago.
The Tricerablade and Ankylo Hammer Zord are unleashed to help fight the monster of the week, and we can see that, like, all the Zords have a robotic ranger also as part of them? Weird. Anyway, they all form up into the Dino Fury Megazord and destroy the monster. As part of the episode, they also received a strange signal from space that could have come from Rafcon, but the language is indecipherable. Still, they can also transmit a message, so Zato sends out a signal in the hope that someone on Rafcon is there to hear it. This brings us to episode 4, New Recruits. Void Knight assembles a new robot general, Boom Tower, while the Rangers try to get Zato a job as a reporter at BuzzBum or whatever for reasons that completely elude me. I mean, yeah, sure, he should probably have a life outside of being a ranger, but he's not interested in journalism or pop culture or makeup or the various other things that Buzz Bomber does videos for, so why this? Hell, he lives at the command henge. He doesn't have rent or anything to worry about, and he also doesn't have any documentation he'd probably need for a job like this. In any case, his rival for the job is Javi Garcia, a musician who also wants the job so he can raise money for a keytar. The Rangers look at him as if he's insane. Our heroes suck because keytars are awesome. The two are given competing assignments to see who does a better job at it, meaning she gets free work out of one of them if both articles are good. This is why unions are so important, kids. Anyway, Javi is assigned to do a story on a mystical rock at the museum that Void Knight wants to steal for Boomtower, while Zaito has to interview Izzy Garcia, the top teen athlete at Pine Ridge High. She agrees to the interview when he offers a tip about her javelin throwing, which is as simple as aim slightly higher to get more distance, and that seems like the kind of thing she'd know already being the top athlete, but whatever, she tries it. We also learn that Izzy is Warden Garcia's stepdaughter. At the museum, the Sporks attack and Javi calls into the Ranger hotline to report it. Warden Garcia himself actually shows up to try to stop them. It goes about as well as you'd expect. Boomtower has the mystical orb.
With the orb, I'll be invincible.
Invincible? That's not good.
Javi manages to get away with the orb. Later, we learn that today is Massive Coincidence Day, as the Warden admits that Javi is his son, and they'll try to track him down as soon as possible. I mean, it was pretty obvious when all three have the same last name, but still. After her father walks away, Izzy tells the Rangers that her brother goes to a secret spot to practice his music, since their father doesn't approve. The Sporks intercept Javi, but fortunately our heroes arrive to save him. To keep the monsters from getting the orb, Javi smashes it on some rocks, revealing the green and black dino keys, and thus the siblings have become the Black and Green Rangers.
Hold that thought. Skirts aren't really my thing.
Cute, but does she have to do that every time she morphs now? Anyway, fight scene.
Javi, catch!
The henchmen are summoned, and I'm a bit late to say it, but I like their design, reminiscent of medieval pikemen. The outfit is a little busy with the checkerboard patterns on their side, belt, and shield, along with the more elaborate designs on their helmets and chest piece, but otherwise, I like them. Anyway, they force Boomtower to retreat and destroy another Sporks monster in yet another pretty damn good Megazord fight. Formal introductions are made, and Javi ends up getting the job at Buzzbale because of his bravery in getting the orb away. In the next episode, Winning Attitude, they locate the green Tiger Claw Zord. Naturally, in the spirit of the original Mighty Morphin days, we're including a saber-toothed tiger along with dinosaurs for some reason. Javi's Stego Spike Zord is found 2 episodes later in Stego Search. Meanwhile, Void Knight has a secret room at Area 62 that he refuses to let his minions enter, even booby-trapping it with an electric field to shock anyone who tries to open it. More importantly, though, we have the next episode. Unexpected Guest. After a Sporks beast manages to destabilize the Megazord, our heroes try to figure out a way to repair it, when, indeed, someone unexpected shows up.
Oh, that's different.
Holy crap, Mick! This is only the 8th episode, yet we're getting a legacy character to guest star. And hey, considering Ninja Steel was kind of snubbed last season, it's nice to... Wait, why was he a bird? I mean, yeah, he could shapeshift to Ninja Steel, but he did so infrequently that I forgot it was a thing. Why didn't he just show up in a car or something? Why the bird poking at Zaito? In any case, he's been chasing the Nexus Prism, also mentioning it has a strong direct connection to the morphing grid, across the galaxy and its return to Earth, landing somewhere in the area. Zaito unexpectedly is a dick to him, saying they don't know him and have bigger problems to deal with, and thus doesn't care about the Nexus. Mick says he'll stay out of their hair, but Mucus, observing this, reports this news to Void Knight. Mick ends up at Buzzball to search Earth's databases for signs of the Prism, but that just makes me wonder why he hasn't contacted the Ninja Steel Rangers or like any of the other Rangers on Earth. Speaking of, a Sporks tries to capture him to find the Prism, but our heroes bring him back to the command henge. He provides them with a database on all known Ranger teams, as well as giving some more exposition about the Nexus, how it has a mind of its own, and that no one really knows where it originally came from. Using their sensors, they quickly locate it near the waterfront. Since the Nexus is alive, Zaito tries to use his telepathy to communicate with it. He sees a vision of the Morphin Masters creating various mystical objects to hand to Power Ranger teams, including the Dino Gems from Dino Thunder, the Energems, and the Nexus Prism itself. They sent it to Earth to fight evil, where it eventually ended up with the Ninja Steel Rangers. The Morphing Masters have been observing Ranger teams, including both the Beast Morphers and Dino Fury teams most recently. The Nexus has been sent out again to find something, but Zaito isn't able to identify what, only that it's still searching. It heads into the water as the villains show up to try to claim it. In the fight that follows, Boom Tower is destroyed, but the Nexus flies off for parts unknown. The Rangers still not sure why it was here. We finally get to see what's inside of the secret chamber that Void Knight has. A woman suspended in fluid with wires hooked up to her.
But I promise it won't be long. Whatever the cost, we'll be together again soon.
Oh, yes. I'd kill for that.
Zaito apologizes to Mick for being a douche, but it's all water under the bridge, especially as Mick has to head out into space in pursuit of the Nexus. Obviously, it's not really a team-up episode, but as I said, it was nice to have some continuation of Ninja Steel, considering Beast Morphers' team-up was instead to Dino Charge. Ninja Steel wasn't a great season, but it's still part of the legacy, and it deserves some follow-up. Nice to have some resolution on the Nexus and its origins, given it was so vague in the original season. In the 10th episode, Phoning Home, Void Knight and Mucus construct a new general and empower it with a Sporix, this new enemy calling itself Slither. Slither has the ability to cast illusions and deceptions, plus he comes with an over-the-top magician voice, and I kinda love that. In the episode McScary Manor, Amelia's grandfather, referred to as Pop-Pop and had appeared already once before, reveals that he worked at Area 62 and that whatever they did there was top secret. Inside of the manor, Amelia locates the Blazing Dino Key, providing both another power-up armor to use on the ground, while summoning up the Dimetro Blazing Zord. It can merge with the T-Rex Zord to form another Megazord. At the end of the Matchmaker, we have two big revelations. The first is Void Knight taking off his helmet. Not anybody we've met before, but it does seem to identify him as human, or at least a humanoid alien. The bigger, more important reveal, though, is that Izzy is a lesbian, dating a minor character named Fern who had appeared a couple of times before this. Aside from Trini in the 2017 reboot movie, this is the first real acknowledgement of LGBT plus people in Power Rangers in 28 years, and the first time on TV. In a show that's always tried to promote progressive or at least positive messages for kids, that's a bit of a lacking gap when other shows have been more willing to take that plunge years before this one. And making that first time one of the main characters, not just a one-off character of the week teaching a moral message about how prejudice is bad, is a good way to make up for lost time. Hell, making their partner someone we've seen before in previous episodes and will be seen again, and having her friends and family being happy and treating it as something normal is so important for kids, especially when we still have massive legal pushbacks against LGBT plus people in the real world. Now, full disclosure, I'm a white cisgender straight dude, so I'm not necessarily the most qualified to say it and take my opinions with a grain of salt, but I think this is great, much needed representation in this franchise, and I have to give major props to the production for finally making it happen. And again, during a time when hard-fought rights for LGBT plus people in America have been put in danger.
Well, better late than never.
But hey, at least there are no other massive, shocking reveals for this season. Apropos of nothing, let's move on to episode 14, Old Foes. A figure in a cloak enters Area 62 and approaches Void Knight's Sporix chamber. Ah, good, Andros is here to finally solve this whole thing. Void Knight and his generals intercept him.
Behold!
You're not Andros. So, just like the Venjix reveal last season, this one got spoiled for me too. Initially, not by any fan, though I would have been, more on that in a moment. No, in this case, it was a friend accidentally retweeting it, not realizing it'd be a thing for me. But even if they hadn't, YouTube friggin' pushed it out in a recommended video. And before anyone says, well, maybe don't go onto YouTube to avoid spoilers or something like that, I'm curious where the hell you're watching this then and what you think my job is. And then several people spoiled it in replies sometime after I'd already been spoiled on it, and no, I hadn't mentioned it or talked about it anywhere, asking for what I thought about it. As a reminder, I don't watch Power Rangers while it's airing anymore. I start watching it when I work on the HOPR video, which is usually like a few days before the video comes out. Usually, this video was meant to come out sooner than it did. You should always always assume that I have seen nothing of the show if I haven't made a history video on it. Because I probably haven't. I knew the spoiler about Lord Zedd before I knew the names of any of the characters of this season. Nick's appearance was not spoiled, so it was a genuinely cool, exciting moment for me. Zedd's reveal got spoiled, and I spent all these episodes waiting for clues that this moment would happen, wondering in my head if Void Knight was really him because the design of his helmet kind of vaguely resembles Zedd's grill mouthpiece. It changes my viewing experience when I know something's coming, and I'm trying to approach the show in good faith on its own terms. Now, in the interest of fairness, I'm not the only one who got spoiled. Apparently this episode aired in France and the UK before it did in the USA, so everyone got spoiled that this was going to happen beforehand, so it's not like I'm a special case here. Many probably assumed that I had seen the same spoilers, and since it was out there anyway, that it was free game to discuss it. And hey, it's my own fault for not watching the show as it airs. I've gotten spoilers for other shows sometimes just thanks to Twitter trending topics. To be completely free of spoilers, I'd have to just log off from social media entirely and never read comments on my videos and never talk to my friends or loved ones who are in turn curious about my feelings about it. It's just I'd like to encourage better behavior, if only because I feel like we shouldn't have to do all those things in order to not be spoiled on something that happens. And if you were just curious about my thoughts on it, well, I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm the loud, opinionated guy who has made hour-long synopses of a children's show, who spent several minutes in them rambling about baby carriage chases and the poor cinematography and editing choices of explosions. Trust me, you'll get my opinions about it eventually if you're patient. I think that's enough diversion. Let's talk about some plot here. The villains recognize him and are naturally confused as all hell. I'm not sold on his new voice, done by Andrew Lang, aka Venjix and Evox. He puts on a standard, deep, gravelly villain voice for him, when honestly his Evox voice was closer to Robert Axelrod's Zedd. Zedd did not have that deep a voice. It was more conniving, a bit more snake-like. Not cutesy high pitch, obviously, but needing more of the throat to get the proper intonation. Anyway, despite that, he makes a good first impression here. I've commented before that Zedd was never one to physically engage in combat, but you really see how powerful he is by deadlifting Void Knight with one hand and kicking Slither away effortlessly. However, Zedd is ordered to stand down by this guy with frickin' skeletons hanging from him like a necklace. This is Rigul. Rigul's a sorcerer and necromancer, and elected to resurrect Zedd at his most brutal. In turn, he put a compliance collar on him to make him obey. Not entirely sure how that works when, as far as I know, Zedd isn't dead, just living as a normal human, but hey, maybe that guy got killed at some point in the last 20 years. Rigul wants the Sporix to power up his resurrected forces, even bringing back 2 Sporix beasts as a demonstration. But Void Knight makes a counteroffer. Destroy the Rangers, and he'll give them a Sporix. This is consequently a Halloween episode, as the Rangers are setting up for a Halloween dance with spoopy decorations. Ollie says he isn't frightened by anything, because he can logic his way out of horror situations. So the Rangers make a bet with him that they can scare him. As such, while he goes on a haunted trail they've set up, they all get taken prisoner by Zedd and Rigul. Ollie destroys the 2 resurrected Sporix beasts, but they just reform.
With Master Rigul's regeneration energy still flowing through us, we can't be defeated!
Rigul has access to Time Lord regeneration energy? Oh, and then he just destroys them again and it sticks. Ollie tries to take on Zedd on his own, but Solon teleports him into the command henge before that can go as badly as you might think. They consult the database Mick gave them for some archive clips to find a way to fight Zedd, including a random new audio clip for Alpha. Voice is uncredited, but clearly they just chipmunked someone's voice for it.
Aye, aye, aye! Zedd has transformed our Rangers into children!
Not perfect, but still closer to Richard Horvitz's Alpha than the one from Once a Ranger, at least.
He had a horrifying and ginormous Zord of his own, Serpentera.
You have the clips! And Solon is voice acted! How do you get the pronunciation wrong like this? I mean, as annoyed as I was when that happened in Megaforce, it kind of was just emblematic of that series' incompetence. This one has been going just fine. Like with the clips and Beast Morphers, they did some more revoicing. Zordon in particular, which doesn't seem to have any effects added to it. It just sounds wrong.
Hurry! You must destroy my energy tube.
Right!
Time is running out. Hurry! You must destroy my energy tube.
Right!
Time is running out.
Anyway, Ollie points out that they don't really have a giant head in a tube to sacrifice to stop Zedd this time, so they need to think of something else. Realizing that Zedd was taking orders from Regal and that he didn't have the collar in the archive clips, Ollie remembers seeing the collar from the database, playing a clip from the Beast Morphers episode with Rygog using it. Ollie destroys the collar, allowing Zedd to have control again.
After all this time, I'm free. I'm free!
Zedd forces Regal to retreat, and the 5 Rangers, reunited, take on Zedd alongside the yet again resurrected Sporix beasts. While Zedd survives the attack, he knows that he's not quite as powerful without his staff, and elects to retreat for now.
If I return, I'll crush you like the cockroaches you are, and burn this planet to a cinder!
Void Knight takes Regal, sedates him, and locks him up in a cell, thinking that his powers might be useful in the future. So, the return of Zedd. I've got to admit, I'm a little off-put by this inclusion, especially after what had just happened with Beast Morphers. Sure, seeing him again is great, but I'm a little worried that coming off the heels of a series that had a lot of references to past Ranger stuff, wherein the main villain was actually another past villain, that every series is now just gonna nostalgia bait the older audience. Team-ups and references should be used sparingly. It makes them less special if they happen all the time or in every season. Sure, I always want the current team to meet the previous one, but that's mostly for the hope that we catch up on the previous team's story, see how things have developed for them since their ending. I'm interested in these people as characters, not just for the prospect of past Ranger stuff appearing. To me, constantly throwing in references to past seasons, bringing back past villains whose stories are long since resolved, especially as big a one as Lord Zedd is, and with the meta wince-inducing part that he lacks Robert Axelrod's amazing voice, reeks of, we have no faith in our current product, love us because the old stuff is here. Remember, one of Megaforce's big flaws is that they threw in fan service without actually understanding why these things mattered. A Zordon mention, saying a place is Corinth when it looks nothing like Corinth. Random Corone was Astronema mention when it has nothing to do with anything. Having references is good. Having team-ups and past characters return is good. But doing so much so quickly over 2 shows, I just don't want Power Rangers to spend all its time jerking itself off instead of producing a new, fun, interesting product in its own right. Beast Morphers at least waited until it was almost 3/4 done before it started really laying it on. Here we had Mix's return in episode 8, Zedd's in episode 14, before we even get the 6th Ranger. The episode is fine, but it's not great. While Zedd looks good, I don't think they quite got his voice down, and I don't just mean the way the voice sounds. The way Zedd speaks, his inflections, and the kind of words and phrases he would use. I don't feel they're quite represented well in Old Foes. In addition, the lack of the Lord Zedd theme is noticeable. Sure, as has been pointed out before, they may not really have the rights to the music anymore, but not even an attempt at a sound-alike? The deep horn section with a few single notes that might sound similar to his theme, but not quite it? No, it's the same music and sound the season has already used. Sure, the cloak reveal is great and the cinematography is doing a lot to capture how big a moment this is, but it's doing all the heavy lifting. The new suit looks cool, but without the voice, his mannerisms, or the leitmotif, it just doesn't quite have the feeling that this is Lord Zedd. Anyway, we continue the story in Storm Surge. Javi is assigned by Jane to do a story at Buzz Balloon on a strange storm that's been hovering over Pine Ridge Bay for the last week. It's causing bizarre electrical interference that's preventing boats and planes from entering the area, so Ollie's mom is sending in a specially equipped submarine drone to try to investigate further. Zato recalls how the Nexus prism had gone into the bay before, so it could be connected. The drone locates a glowing object under the water, but thanks to some shenanigans by Slither, the drone is remote hacked by the villains. They bring it to shore, but a dark, shadowy figure emerges from the object before they can take it. The figure soon makes his presence known to our heroes. A Gold Ranger. His weapon is like a sword that's also a hedge trimmer. If you want to be generous, you could call it part electric saw, which is still neat, just kind of weird. Also a lightning gun, which is also always fun. And he combines it with the sword to call it a blade blaster. Don't know if it's an intentional reference to the Mighty Morphin weapon, since the words are generic enough for that to be a thing, but it's still cool regardless. He doesn't demorph, just say hi to Zato, who's clearly disturbed by this Ranger's presence before he teleports away. Ollie's mom later tells our heroes, not knowing who they are, how she saw the Ranger emerge from the pod, speculating that since Rangers are connected to the morphing grid, that somehow within the pod the energy built up and spilled out, eventually leading to the electrical storm. In the next episode, Ancient History, the Gold Ranger arrives at the command henge and demorphs in front of our heroes, revealing himself to be another Rafconian named Ion. He explains that in the final battle to try to destroy the Sporix beasts, their Ultra Zord was heavily damaged and they had to eject. Ion's escape pod landed in the water and I guess put him in suspended animation? He says he saw the Green Morphin Master appear and awaken him, warning him that if he didn't come back, Lord Zedd would reign again.
Wait, but Lord Zedd's not on Earth. He's been gone for ages.
It was 2 episodes ago. How much time has passed since then? And how do you know he's not on Earth anymore? Ion says he's happy to join the team, but only on one condition: if he can lead. The others object, but Ion explains some more history we weren't privy to, namely that the Sporix didn't arrive on Rafcon, they were created by the Rafconians to combat an approaching evil. Ion knew that they had rushed out the creation of the Sporix. Zaito had an opportunity to object and prevent the plan from going forward, Ion even begging him to do so, but instead Zaito approved the plan. Ion, in turn, tried to destroy the machine that created them, but Zaito stood in his way. And instead, the Sporix were released, and, well, the rest is quite literally history. The Rangers are pissed, though honestly it feels a bit overblown. Sure, maybe Zaito could have objected, but he said he trusted his leaders' decision, and there was no way he could have known it would be as bad as it was. After a battle with Mucus goes badly for Zato's leadership, it seems the others are coming around to Ion's point of view. Thanks to the hack of the submarine, the villains have found Ion's Zord with the data and plan to destroy it. On the advice of Solon, that a true leader knows when to back off or when to take charge, Zaito allows Ion to take command for a bit, but sadly it leads to the Zords getting wrecked. Ion realizes that leadership means making hard choices that everyone else will judge you for, and defers leadership back to Zaito. Fortunately, the Mosa Razor Zord activates and saves the Megazord from total destruction. Ion hands command back over to Zaito and they resume being friends. And it feels a little too pat of an ending for me. Feels like they could have stretched this into an arc or at least a couple episodes, especially with how Zaito seemed so shocked and worried about Ion being back, maybe some other detail about their past together that would make him worried about Ion taking command. Like if Ion had done the same thing before, but he was reckless and not willing to think about his actions, or something along those lines. Still, we've got our 6th Ranger now. His costume is essentially the same as the others, only instead of the gray on the left half, it's blue, kind of continuing a trend among Gold Rangers for the last several series with blue and gold. It doesn't look bad, but personally I think it'd look better in black. In Crossed Wires, they combine the Mosa Razor Zord with the Dino Fury Megazord to form the Fusion Ultra Zord, which honestly does not feel like it should be an Ultra Zord. It's just 4 Zords together, not even more than 1 Megazord. Maybe if they had all 6 Zords together, but that still feels kind of weak given what we've had for Ultra Zords before. Feels more like just an enhanced Megazord. In the episode Waking Nightmares, the Rangers recover 2 more battle keys that had been hidden away. The Light Dino Key can break magical curses, convenient honestly given how often that happens with monster attacks, and the Shadow Dino Key, which activates a new battle armor and can create black holes. Oh good, we're gonna end Dino Fury the same way Dino Charge did, with the Earth getting sucked into one. However, the keys can also be combined to form the Cosmic Dino Key, which can create portals to anywhere in the universe. Neat, but Rick Sanchez already figured that out.
Hoo-ha! Check it out, a dimension where hats wear people.
Oh, and of course, the keys are also linked to new Zords. Thanks to said portal travel, though, they find that the Zords were transported to the planet Nibiru in a distant galaxy. As such, our heroes travel to it to retrieve them.
That's an alien planet?
Yeah, you'd be surprised how much of the universe looks like a rock quarry. Or Canada if you've got a Stargate. We also learned that what I thought were constellations before in the morphing sequence, it's actually the morphing grid itself, which honestly looks a lot more impressive than a random technological tube or whatever that was in Once a Ranger. However, Void Knight observes them using the grid to supercharge a key, realizing that he can tap into the morphing grid itself to power the machine that will restore his girlfriend. He releases Rigul to restore Boom Tower to life and distracts the Rangers. Can you just resurrect a robot using magic? The 2 new Zords combine with ions to form into the Mosa Shadow Megazord, which destroys Boomtown by shooting out a black hole that he's sucked into before it destroys itself. I would just like to note for the record that the Rangers now have a weapon that shoots collapsed stars. However, it turns out all of that was just a distraction, so Void Knight can steal the equipment that could tap into the morphing grid. The first season comes to a close with Void Trap. The Rangers quickly deduce that Void Knight wants to tap the grid's power and come up with a plan to sabotage the part he still needs for the equipment. Void Knight soon learns he needs one more component and dispatches his generals to retrieve it.
I promise you, my darling Centaur, it won't be long.
The device was created by Ollie's mother, who had been studying the henge, and they bring her to the command center to explain the plan, though still neglect to mention her son is a ranger. However, when they execute the plan, they kidnap her too.
Now she's lost in the dark dimension.
Oh, great, as if things weren't bad enough, now she has to bargain with Dormammu. Zato uses the cosmic keys to head into the dimension and rescue her. However, while he destroys Rigul and rescues Ollie's mom in the green screen dimension, the other Rangers, minus Ollie, are captured by Void Knight. Zato reunites with Ollie as Void Knight activates the machine Dino Henge. The power begins flowing, but the amount of energy going through the Rangers will kill them if it's not stopped. Zato is captured, and Ollie's mom distracts Void Knight, while Ollie destroys the Dino Henge statues and frees the Rangers, cutting off the power flow. However, destroying the statues also cuts off their connection to the morphing grid, and they demorph in front of Ollie's mother.
If you dare hurt my son, I will hunt you down and obliterate you and everything you've ever loved!
Damn, can we make her a ranger? Still, while they can't morph, they still have their weapons, so they can engage Void Knight and the henchmen. Izzy slices up the stasis chamber, so Void Knight goes to protect it, allowing the Rangers to blast the energy capacitor of the device and make it go all explodey. And I'm sure we'll never see Void Knight again. The group wonders if they're even still Rangers, and in a bit of irony for me, Ion says that on Rafcon, once a knight, always a knight, and thus none of them refuse to give up the fight, especially since there's still Sporix out there. Which of course is counter to how in Once a Ranger, the team gave up. I don't know, I found it amusing at least. However, as a bit of a deus ex machina, the Green Morphin Master shows up and restores the statues, telling them that their work isn't over yet.
But I have questions. What about Rafcon? What happened to my people?
Damn, if only you had a device to let you teleport anywhere in the universe. Anyway, after the Rangers are called away to deal with another Sporix attack, we cut back to Area 62, where apparently the cryo chamber was teleported back to. Centaura's eyes start to flutter, and we see Void Knight's very scarred helmet on the ground to end out the season. Well, okay, we also have the season requisite holiday clip show with that same Santa actor from the last several series, and also Slither and Mucus escape the green screen dimension somewhere in between episodes. It takes a while for the clips to get started, admittedly, but it eventually happens. Slither and Mucus manage to slip a bomb into the base and, like idiots, gloat about it to Javi and Solon, who are stuck in there with it, the villains having also disabled their communications and teleporter. They have to find the bomb, which they suspect was swapped out in the presents, and consequently the gifts relate to flashbacks to earlier in the season. This is also, at the time of this writing, the last new episode of Power Rangers to air on American TV. The second season of Dino Fury switched to airing new content exclusively on Netflix. It's an interesting new development, which, of course, we'll have to wait and see how things go. It could mean shorter seasons, longer single seasons again. Much like Hasbro taking over the franchise, things just suddenly went up into the air. No more Nickelodeon mandates on content either. Let's properly move into Season 2 with the episode Numero Uno. Amelia is filling in for Jane at Buzz Bulma while she's away doing a hot air balloon show. So Amelia was like second in command this whole time? And honestly, it feels like she's doing a better job running the place than Jane was, since she's actually doing her job instead of going around doing comedic subplots with J-Borg. Otherwise, Ollie's mom is working at a research institute in Japan, while Zato and Ion try to locate Rafcon after 65 million years of stellar drift. At Area 62, Slither and Mucus work on breaking into the secret chamber, Mucus deciding to do her best Miley Cyrus impression. However, they're soon contacted by Void Knight at the base's computer screens, who tells them he needs them to obtain something from the Rangers. A monster attacks the Rangers and manages to steal a key that can be used to repair things. With it, he repairs his armor and resumes his quest to collect Sporix. In Missing Pieces, Solon is able to identify Rafcon's 3 sons, the coordinates they need to use the portal to it, and Zato heads there to try to find his homeworld. He's unable to locate the planet, but he does find a transmitter beacon that's sending out what seems to be the same signal they had received in the first season. However, Ollie figures out that they're not the same message, but rather separate parts of a single transmission. When played together, the message is heavily garbled, but they do make out the words, "To those who survived," and Rafcon. As part of our Zord count, they soon recover the Packy Smash Zords in Tiny Trouble, wherein we learn 2 bizarre things. One, that Zords can actually reproduce, and that apparently Rafcon had the concept of boxing, since they use a bunch of boxing-related stuff with the Smash Zords added to the Megazord. More importantly, at the end of the episode, Void Knight finally recovers enough Sporix to power his machine, which is able to restore Centaura. In the next episode, Stitched Up, we learn that Void Knight's real name is Tarek, as he helps Centaura recover. He's apparently been preparing a ship this whole time, and it's almost ready for them to leave Earth, a subject that makes Santara uncomfortable since she didn't realize they were still on Earth at all. While he keeps Santara's existence a secret from his minions, he does tell them he's working on a device that will jam the Zords. At the end, we learn that they were involved in some kind of accident, Santara thinking that he should be seeking revenge against humanity for what happened to them, but Void Knight is only interested in leaving the planet with her. In the next episode, Jam Session, Void Knight explains to her that he's keeping her and his appearance a secret because his minions only respect strength. If they sense any kind of weakness, they'll turn on him. Not sure how accurate that entirely is. The robots under his command should, be programmed to obey him, and Mucus is, kind of goofy. Oh yeah, and there's also another general that got built near the end of Season 1, Wreckmate, who was seemingly destroyed there, but then came back in Season 2, but hasn't done anything of note. He talks like a pirate. Anyway, the Zord Jammer is deployed, but they end up destroying it thanks to the addition of a new Zord, the Terra Freeze Zord. While everyone else was out though, Santara redirects the Sporix energy into her stasis chamber, using it to transform herself into a monster. She now calls herself Void Queen. Between episodes, she apparently introduces herself to the other minions and starts utilizing the Sporix they've gathered to send new monsters out, though Void Knight objects. He doesn't actually want to hurt humans, they were just collateral damage. But she's hell-bent on hurting people. He goes with a Sporix beast to a pool where the monster turns people into trees. When he spots a child that's been transformed, he's horrified by all this. He shows Santara the spaceship, which is now ready to go. Well, to be fair, Void Knight, that thing did look like a pile of junk. Probably would have exploded on the launch pad. She blasts him away, and he realizes that he needs to stop her, informing the Rangers of how to stop the monster of the week, and then goes on the run. We continue on in serious business. While Void Queen starts working on a secondary project, Void Knight evades his former minions to try to figure out what to do next. As part of the subplot involving a child hacking Buzzmoddy, he realizes that he needs to join the Rangers in defending the city. The Rangers are only willing to accept the idea he could change if he recovers the Sporix that he originally stole. In The Hunt, we learn that the secret project Void Queen was working on is another general, who is destroyed in the same episode. Anyway, Void Knight warns the Rangers about the new robot and a bit of his backstory, how Santara was injured in an accident and why he stole the Sporix. Zaito was unwilling to work with him given all the harm he's caused, plus the fact that he was willing to do all this just to save one person's life. Still, he comes around when Void Knight frees the Rangers from being captured by the robot. Void Knight was injured from the battle, and it's revealed that his armor and whatnot comes from the Dino Knight Morpher and Key, which he found long ago and adapted for his own use. He surrenders them to Zaito, who uses them to activate the Dino Knight armor, basically the battleizer for the season, and it's slick as hell. Now as Tarek, Void Knight tells the Rangers he has so much more to explain.
Hello, dear.
No!
Well, I guess there are still 13 more episodes. We need some time for exposition. In the next episode, Loser Weepers, she locks him up in her old stasis cryotube, though he's still conscious and alive. I'm just wondering how he poops in there. Anyway, to defeat a powerful monster, they have to form the Primal Ultrazord, the configuration that resulted in the rest of Zato's team dying. Apparently it's unstable, which is why it went kabloom when they used it. Fortunately, with millions of years of hindsight and Ollie's technical know-how, they figure out a way to keep it from blowing itself up like last time. In the next episode, Void Queen begins using the stasis chamber in the same way she used it on herself, having the Sporix energy transform Tarek.
I am Void King!
Naturally, it's brainwashed him as well, so now he serves her loyally. Anyway, we come to Ultimate Mystery, where Buzz Barnaby is doing a story about Area 62, interviewing Pop Pop because he was a janitor there. He denies anything supernatural about it, and Amelia gets sidetracked with news about a Bigfoot sighting. You know, standard filler episode material, nothing to...
We're expecting a call from General Shaw.
Wait, the head of Grid Battle Force?
Okay, so, I apparently thought I had talked about this in the Beast Morphers video, but I evidently did not. I did mention speculation about what universe it took place in, but I never really came to a final conclusion about it in the video. The thing is, I did ultimately decide that it was not the main Rangers universe, that it was its own thing. I'll get into that more in a bit, but starting from the assumption that Beast Morphers took place in its own universe, I'm not going to question how Dino Fury knows about Grid Battle Force. Obviously, the database Mick had should include meeting Rangers from other universes. It's just weird that we're getting what should be the annual crossover episode, and it starts out with a plot about Bigfoot.
There's been a jailbreak at one of our facilities. Many villains have escaped.
She warns them that one may be headed their way, and I'm just... What? See, with the presence of Zedd and the knowledge of his existence among both heroes and villains alike, that made me think that Dino Fury was supposed to be set in the main universe. But they talk about Grid Battle Force and Coral Harbor as if they were in the same universe as them. When I did my Twitter thread, everyone said that it was pretty definitive that Beast Morphers took place in the main universe, but that doesn't make sense to me. The Beast Morphers Earth wouldn't need access to Ranger tech from other universes if they were from the main universe. Jason had to come to them via interdimensional portal. Before you say, well, why couldn't it just have been a regular portal? Well, why would Devin have to risk his life to put out a call via the morphing grid to get help from other universes if there were active Ranger teams running around in their own universe? This is an official organization with military backing, and they couldn't call Lightspeed Rescue for help? Or the Wind Ninja Academy? After all, if they're in the main universe and have access to all that Ranger tech given to them, it means they are in contact with these teams. If Beast Morphers is its own universe, then contacting other universes is difficult, as we saw with their attempts to contact the RPM universe. But if they're in the main universe, it would be really easy to get help. Hell, if it's the main universe, why are there no Ranger veterans that work at Grid Battle Force? Wouldn't you want the most qualified, experienced people with knowledge of the morphing grid working on your big project to tap it for power? And that's another thing. Grid Battle Force wasn't just responsible for their own Rangers. They were behind Morphex Power in general, a project that had international cooperation and participation unprecedented in the show's history. And I have to imagine that after Evox was destroyed, the other governments would not be so keen as to stop using Morphex like America was for some reason, yet we will never see it again. Now, you could argue that at the very least, Beast Morphers and Dino Fury take place in their own universe together, not impossible, but then why is Mick running around a complete other universe hunting the Ninja Nexus Prism? Did it jump universes at some point? I admit, there is nothing explicitly said in Beast Morphers that they were in a separate universe from the main one. But the way everything is framed in that series, the way they talk about past villains, the Rangers failing to recognize the putties with Ryjack, the technology of accessing the morphing grid, the lack of connection to other past teams, the way the suits look different from all other Ranger teams, just everything about it screams, this takes place in a different universe than everything we've seen before, and these are their first Power Rangers. And furthermore, even if we assume that Dino Fury and Beast Morphers take place in the same universe, how does Shaw know how to contact them? They've never met before! Both teams operate with their secret identities. Sure, with the resources of Grid Battle Force, they probably could figure it out, much like how Lightspeed knew who the Wild Force Rangers were, but you'd think we'd have seen some kind of message between them before now. Some exchange of resources and tech. Bring the Dino Fury Rangers under a local division of Grid Battle Force or something. Just, like, Beast Morphers being in the main universe opens up more questions than it answers, and this episode throws all that out a window. Anyway, as if on cue, the escaped monster arrives and attacks.
I'm no Sporix. I am Luthorn, nephew to Lokar, the terrible wizard.
I was kidding! I mean, I just fully expect at this point with the obscure Mighty Morphin stuff coming in that we're going to learn that Jane is actually the daughter of Principal Kaplan or something. Anyway, despite the cameo from Shaw, this isn't really a team-up episode. Apparently, because of the pandemic, we did not get a proper team-up episode for Dino Fury. It's likely that Shaw knowing who the Dino Fury Rangers are and all that is the remnants of what would have been a team-up, something we can imagine happened off-screen. And hey, I suppose we can assume that, like, the monster just jumped dimensions and they were able to detect that. After all, Scrozzle was able to hop to the RPM Earth and all. We can say this isn't really from the same universe.
Coral Harbor's close, but there's no way that brute just randomly decided to attack us.
Maybe he means it's close interdimensionally? Ugh. Anyway, Mr. Pointy says that his master instructed him to attack the statues at Dinohenge, that it would cut off the Rangers' connection to the grid. After they destroy him, Ollie finally asks Amelia why she cares so much about cryptids and the like. She explains that her parents were supposedly killed in a fire, but all the evidence around it is uncertain, and Pop doesn't like to talk about details. Thus, she's drawn to bizarre mysteries like that, hoping that solving ghosts or something would help her figure out what happened to them. Later, though, at a debriefing with General Shaw, she reveals that they were able to recapture all their prisoners, save for one, Scrozzle.
Intel says you've already met the mastermind behind it all.
Not him.
Lord Zedd?
Good dramatic ending hook for the episode, But if Beast Morphers takes place in the main universe, why is she treating the return of Lord Zedd, the guy who terrorized and attacked Earth for a few years, as if he's only significant to the Dino Fury Rangers who recently encountered him? Why isn't she putting out an all-points bulletin to every Ranger team on Earth to warn them? Why not send another message through the morphing grid, especially to the Mighty Morphin team, who we know are active because of the team-up episode last season? If they were in their own universe, they might know about Zedd, but more in the context of the past and his recent encounter with the Dino Fury Rangers, not really understanding how big a deal this is, versus the very big threat posed by his return, since remember, the Rangers never actually beat him! In the next episode, Zedd returns to Area 62. There's been a noticeable change in his voice. It's still not Robert Axelrod quality, but it's higher pitched and there's more of a distortion in it.
I was in the neighborhood and thought you might like to meet my new servant.
Said new servants are his General Scissorai and, of course, Scrozzle.
Evox was nothing compared to you. But, don't tell him I said that.
Yeah, much as I love Zedd, Venjix did have a higher body count, Scrozzle. Zedd wants help in destroying the Rangers, agreeing to split the Earth in half between their forces. Zedd had Scrozzle retrieve his staff from the Crystal Dimension and Beast Morphers, I guess they just left all that stuff there after Venjix was destroyed, and plans to have him construct an army of robots. Void King likes the idea, suggesting they take the general robots he had made before and creating enhanced versions of them. Using mind control on Ollie, he retrieves the two parts of the Rafcon message. It seems Zedd encountered a third part while he was traveling the galaxy after last season. When combined, the message gives Rafcon's coordinates for any survivors, saying they moved it to allow it to heal from all the damage done to it. Zedd proceeds to take Boom Blaster, a rebuilt boom tower, and heads off to the planet. After healing Ollie from the mind control, he remembers everything and informs the others of all this. This leads us into Rafcon Revealed. With the coordinates, the Rangers open a portal to Rafcon, Ion confident he'll defeat Zedd based on what the Morphin Master said to him when he was brought out of stasis. However, once they arrive, they find the planet deserted. It's no longer a wasteland, but there are no life form readings. Zedd and his forces are already there. It seems he's searching for the original generator that created the Sporix, hoping to use it to create his new army. We get some good pathos from Zato as he reminisces about the city that used to stand in the valley they're in, but Ion reminds him of the job they have to do. The generator was plugged into Rafcon's core. If it was damaged or destroyed, the planet would have gone up with it, so it must be functional. Though that does make me tilt my head who thought it was a good idea to plug in the dangerous experimental device to the core of the planet! The Rangers head to where the generator should be accessible, but it turns out that's what Zedd wanted, leading him right to it. And man, you'd think after 65 million years of plant growth and geological upset that there'd be more than just a few shrubs on top of the control console. With Zedd's minions distracting the Rangers, he's able to activate the generator. Ion and Zato try to attack, but it doesn't go well.
Here's an idea for you, Red. Why don't you do what the rest of your people did? And go extinct!
Zedd blasts at our heroes, but they're suddenly saved by a protective shield and are transported back to Earth. Zato is severely injured, more so than Solon can help with, but their savior soon arrives, the Green Morphin Master. This leads us into our next episode, Morphin Master. She heals Zato and explains that they were unable to stop Zedd on Rafcon because they lacked the arsenal for the job, revealing to them the Dino Master Saber.
It's extremely powerful, and the armor it unlocks can protect you.
Isn't it nice to have a Deus Ex Machina in your corner?
But anyone who uses this to destroy their enemy will also be destroyed.
Well, that's a really terrible design flaw. Take it back and fix it. What the hell else you people doing all day if that's the best you can do? Well, it seems there might be a reason for the rush job on that. The Blue Morphin Master arrives and explains that Green here is actually breaking their laws. Shortly after the Great Sporix War 65 million years ago, they began to realize that with each Power Ranger team they created, the amount of evil that grew in response multiplied. The risk to the morphing grid became too much, and they took a vow of non-interference so they could focus on protecting the grid. She's broken that and has to be sentenced to imprisonment in a crystal for all eternity. Zato intervenes, and this turns out to be a stealth clip show, retconning in the Morphin Masters into playing a larger part not only in this season, but the entire franchise. It was the Green Morphin Master who sent the Tyrannosaurus coin to Devon in Beast Morphers, who saved Steel and turned him into a human. Also, further confirmation of Beast Morphers and Dino Fury being in the same universe, as Izzy points out that Steel is the star of her favorite show, Kung Fugitive, but I can write that off as they're just being the same person in both universes, much like how there's a Jungle Karma Pizza both in the main universe and the RPM universe. Yes, I know it's a stretch, but damn it, everything that happened in Beast Morphers really seemed to point to it being its own universe, and saying it was the main universe just feels wrong, dang it. But anyway, yeah, Green has actually been responsible for a lot of nonsensical stuff that happened before. The legendary battle and the other Rangers showing up and disappearing in balls of light? That was her! It's not said out loud, but the implication seems to be that she brought Robo Knight back too. Now, bear in mind, this doesn't suddenly make the season and all that good. It wasn't the intention of the creators at the time, and doesn't suddenly make Megaforce a good series because one stupid thing got retconned, but it's a nice nod and acknowledgement of mistakes made and an attempt to backfill them. Sometimes a Band-Aid is appreciated even if it doesn't fix a lot. And I will always appreciate a show where the people making it are trying to put forth their best effort rather than ones that clearly don't give a crap. Mind you, apparently some of the fandom has disliked this because it implies that the series has always had a great big green safety net watching over them, a deus ex machina just waiting around to remove all the tension. I don't know if I necessarily agree. It's clear she didn't do everything, and there likely were moments when she couldn't get involved without getting noticed by the other masters. But still, maybe she saved Kendrix. Maybe she's why the space-time continuum has stopped punching itself in the stomach over in the Dino Charge universe. And we'll have to see in the future if this ever gets addressed, or if there will be other ass pulls that we can ascribe to the Green Morphin Master. Speaking of, the Rangers say they'll defend her from Blue, but she says they need to deal with Zedd, teleporting them back to Rafcon. She then flees from Blue before he can imprison her. Unfortunately, they're too late to stop Zedd. He teleports away with the generator. And as said, without the generator plugged into the planet, geological instability quickly makes the planet go boom.
It was safe for 65 million years, but one day with Zedd and
it's all rubble.
Zato nearly died, he got reminded that his family and friends are all dead, his people are missing, and now his planet blew up.
All in all, today's been a bit of a bummer, hasn't it, sir?
Zedd brings the generator to Earth. The Void family shows up, pissed at a seeming betrayal by Zedd, but he covers it up by claiming that Scrozzle built the generator to make more Sporix.
And that's not quite shut up and slink away.
Our heroes show up to stop him, of course. Ion uses the saber and activates Dino Master Mode, giving him a spiffy cape and collar. I dig it. They force everyone but Zedd to retreat as he sets up a force field around the generator. Ion is ready to sacrifice himself to break through the shield, but the Green Morphin Master returns and destroys it for him. She and Zedd have a beam struggle, allowing for Ion to jump in and slice Zedd. With him distracted, she blows the generator to hell. However, she can't destroy Zedd directly, instead locking herself and him inside a crystal.
it's Zedd and Master Green?
Oh no, she turned them into collectibles! The Red and Blue Morphin Masters show up and they explain what happened, realizing just how boned both the Rangers and Earth would have been without her intervention. They elect to set things right by freeing her from the crystal. They also take Zedd to secure him on a faraway planet. Green explains that Ion's prophecy of stopping Zedd was fulfilled by his action, but that he didn't have to do it alone. In turn, Zato asks about their people, and she says their fate will be discovered by them in time. And I'm sure we'll never see Zedd again. Of course we're gonna see him again. In the next episode, Wishful Thinking, Amelia makes a wish via a monster's spell to see her parents again. But despite everyone else who was cursed by it getting their wishes, hers doesn't happen. Or does it? In Things Unspoken, Void Queen begins planning her endgame, stealing the keys to a drilling device that the park wardens have been using to build a new drainage system. Once they gain control of it in the episode Bad Vibes, they program it to drill into the command henge. Once there, Void King blasts Solon and steals the Sporix they have in stasis, leading into the three-part finale, beginning with The Invasion. So it turns out International Electromatics was actually being used by the Cybermen as a front for their force to occupy the London sewers. Fortunately, the Second Doctor is teamed up with the newly formed United Nations Intelligence, and I mixed up my notes again. Doctor Who and Power Rangers need to stop having the same episode titles. The Rangers help Solon up.
Our shields were no match for that drill.
Then your shields really suck, Solon, if a human-made drill can penetrate them. However, things take a sudden turn when an alien ship arrives over Dino Henge, containing Rafcon. Rafconians. Zato confirms with his tactile telepathy that they're the real deal. Their leader, Aurea, explains that the remaining survivors of Rafcon hid the planet and left to become scavengers while the planet healed.
Hoping to return to Rafcon when the time was right.
Yeah, it's a real shame that nobody knows where it is. Well, I say we forget about Rafcon and not assume it's a big pile of debris now. They ignored Zato's messages because it seemed so unlikely that a 65-million-year-old knight could still be alive. However, after Rafcon's destruction, they decided to follow up on the messages and see for themselves. Aurea privately suggests that they could bring the Rafconians to Earth. Problem is, she's not convinced that humanity would welcome them, what with all the wars and pollution and traffic accidents. As such, they intend to invade and conquer Earth. Naturally, Zato and Ion refuse and say that colonizing and conquest aren't honorable, but the decision has already been made. Meanwhile, with all the Sporex finally in her possession, Void Queen releases them all out into Pine Ridge. That was her master plan. I mean, it's not the worst. It just seems like she could have just released the dozen or so they had all at once and had the same effect. Still, with the risk of the Sporex ravaging Earth the same way they did Rafcon, Aurea agrees to a truce with the Rangers.
We'll battle side by side, but after we defeat the Sporex.
I guess we'll see.
While the city begins evacuating the entire population, the Rangers and Rafconians begin engaging the Sporex army. However, some of them get called away by Void Queen.
Oh, why does Wreckmate get cannons? I want cannons!
Bitches love cannons!
We soon learn that she plans to destroy the hydroelectric dam that powers the city and flood the town to kill all the humans, which feels like it didn't really require the Sporex army to accomplish. During the fight, Aurea sees several examples of selflessness and humanity, including Pop-Pop actually stepping in to defend her from a Sporex. When he gets blasted away, Amelia reveals herself to him. With his injuries, she takes him back to Solon.
That man just saved me.
You still want to take us home?
She's more amenable to the idea of living in peace with them, even having her forces help the evacuation. At the command henge, Pop-Pop's injuries are severe and he suspects he may not survive, so he tells Amelia the truth about her parents. Back when he worked at Area 62, there was a couple of aliens who were there, trapped after an accident. The couple had a baby, and that baby was Amelia. This leads us into the next part. The truth. As she demands to know more, she touches his arm and sees visions of the accident, the alien couple giving the baby to him to take her to safety and making him promise to keep her safe. When she emerges from the vision, antennae grow from her head. As the other Rangers meet up with her, Pop-Pop explains that if there's any more information about her parents, they'd be in the files at the ruins of Area 62. Assuming the files survived at all. However, we've still got that whole Sporex invasion thing going on. As such, the Rangers return to the fight, while Void Queen heads over to Buzz Begonias to interrupt their evacuation livestream and then use some of the destroyed Sporex globs to form a cocoon around herself. Some destroyed Sporex are summoned to the cocoon. Yukis reveals to the Rangers that Void Queen is inside of it, but when she accidentally touches it, she gets absorbed as well. The sheer power of it is more than the Rangers can handle, so they call Ollie's mom up to try to figure out what's up. She theorizes that the cocoon, whenever it hatches, is going to release a massive energy blast that will destroy everything in a 30-mile radius. The people will be safe thanks to the evacuation, and the command center's shields should protect them. Dubious, as I said, given the whole drill thing. But the city's gonna be wiped out. They have about an hour before it goes critical, and the Royal Smart people get to work trying to figure out a way to either move it or siphon the energy away. What's more, Area 62 would also be destroyed. Since this may be her only chance to get answers, Amelia heads there on her own, while the others resume the fight against the Sporex. Pop-Pop even lets her see where a safe is with the files. Said safe apparently being stored on some random cart near the janitors. God, Area 62 was really mismanaged. She's intercepted by Slyther, who damages her morpher so she can't escape, in the process revealing that Area 62 is their base. Fortunately, Solon detects her morpher's damage and informs the others, who come to the rescue. They give her a new morpher and search the base, both for the files and anything that can stop the cocoon. Amelia finds the safe, but the files are gone. They're attacked by Void King, but Amelia tackles him and reads his mind by accident, revealing that Tarek and Santara are her parents. Rafconians who crashed on Earth looking for supplies to scavenge. The government, being the government, imprisoned the two, but whatever the accident was, it kept them from escaping. The two survived the explosion, Santara injured, but believed that the baby didn't survive the blast, Santara blaming humanity for this, as Tarek put her in stasis to keep her alive. He then constructed the power system for it and discovered the Dino Knight morpher and key, thus becoming Void Knight. And he decided to hide his antennae for some reason. Go figure. The telepathy goes both ways. days, so Void King discovers who Amelia is. Somehow this releases him of his hatred, and he's freed from the brainwashing, reverting back to Tarek. However, the happy reunion is interrupted by Solon, who informs them that the cocoon will blow any minute now, but the evacuation is being slowed by gridlock. This leads us into our finale, the Nemesis. Bringing Tarek back to the command henge, they work on the theory that if the revelation about Amelia cured him, it might allow Void Queen to let go of her hatred too, since she's basically running on a hope for revenge over the supposed death of her child. With the remaining Sporix destroyed, the Rafconians are told to evacuate as well, and our heroes go to the cocoon. Amelia can't get close enough to it to link minds with her, and they can't wait for her to emerge without everything going boom, so they go for the next best plan. Zato in the Dino Knight armor hopefully protecting him as he gets in close enough to teleport the cocoon away. However, Tarek volunteers instead.
You and your team are still needed for what will be the biggest battle of your lives. Let me do this for you.
He succeeds, the cocoon safely exploding in a more deserted area. Tarek survived, but the Dino Knight morpher is destroyed. Nearby is what Void Queen describes as the Nemesis Beast. She didn't actually transform in the cocoon, instead of just creating the giant creature before them. The amalgamation of all the Sporix. That she operates like an organic Zord. The Rangers summon all their Zords, but she's still too powerful for them. The Zords get taken down, so the Rangers teleport into the sky above her and drop down, hoping to get Amelia close enough to her. This is actually a really cool ending fight, the Rangers fighting henchmen on the Nemesis itself before eventually getting knocked off. Real Shadow of the Colossus stuff right here. Amelia gets close, but is knocked away without getting close enough. With no other options, Zato elects to use the mutually assured destruction setting on the Dino Master Saber, defeating the Nemesis Beast. Void Queen survives, but Amelia finally manages to grab her arm and reveal the truth to her. She lets go of her hatred.
You're my mom.
Oh, that's nice. Still kind of a bummer that Zato's dead, but wouldn't you know it? The king of Deus Ex Machina shows up. With the Sporix' power drained, they're able to store them safely and away from the rest of the universe. The Rangers beg the Morphin Masters to bring Zato back, but they simply say that he's part of the grid now, a piece of him forever being with them all. Mucus also survives, somehow, crawling away from the battle. We cut to 6 months later, where the Rangers are helping the Rafconians set up their new colony in Area 62. Centaura's pregnant with a sister for Amelia, and apparently the actress was actually pregnant in real life during this bit, so neat. Ion has set up a restaurant serving genuine Rafconian cooking. And I guess people know he's a Ranger now, or at least he revealed his alien nature as he serves Jane and Jayborg, who say they're going to be opening a new office for Buzz Ballyhoo in Angel Grove. A poster shows that Mucus and Slither took on human forms and are now operating a circus. Solon summons the Rangers back to Dino Henge as something is pushing past their defenses. Amelia thinks it's a ghost.
Sorry, but I'm no ghost.
I mean, you kind of are, dead man. He explains that the Morphin Masters reconstituted his form to rejoin them, and that he has a mission for them. Lord Zedd has escaped. Dino Fury is a very interesting season, if a bit uneven. I think the fanbase may have overhyped it a bit. Not that it isn't a great series, it's one of the best, especially Season 2, but Season 1 is where it kind of struggled. Season 1 is actually fairly pedestrian as far as Ranger seasons go. We get plenty of good character-focus episodes, and one of the biggest strengths of the season is that indeed the character-focus episodes pay off big time, but as a result, it often feels like there isn't a lot of forward momentum with the plot. The reveal of Void Knight's motivation is the biggest piece of plot development we get in 20 episodes. Even Zedd's return feels a little stilted and unimpressive given what should be a massive turning point. One of the biggest bads in the series' history coming back, yet you wouldn't necessarily get that impression watching that episode. Season 2, however, is where things really hit the ground. Centaura's development into Void Queen, Void Knight's betrayal, the Zedd arc, the finale, just a bunch of really strong storylines that culminate in a very well-paced, well-performed, exciting finale. You need Season 1 because it sets the stage for everything that comes in Season 2, but it can feel like Season 1 is a bit of a drag to get us to the good bits. Zedd's return arc in Season 2 is pretty phenomenal. Like I said, it felt like in the year between Old Foes and Love-Hate, they worked out the bugs on him, improved his voice, he was more cunning, and his plan was pretty damn good and successful, even blowing up a planet in the process. He was exactly the threat he was supposed to be, managing to outfight or outwit the Rangers, who needed an outside force to help save the day. Hell, he even does some mind control, doing that old corruption of the good guys thing that he did so often in Season 2. The Zedd arc wasn't originally part of the series, but something they decided to add in when the season was changed from 22 episodes to 44. The Hasbro brand office suggesting bringing back Zedd in particular, probably to promote a toy or two. And for something that was added in later, it definitely ended up working pretty well. The Void family's arc is also pretty spectacular. Void Knight starting out as a simple, I want power for the sake of power, discovering his true motives are more noble, only to twist things on their head by revealing that the woman he loves is actually worse than him and cares more for her revenge than the man she loves. And finally, them only getting defeated when they learn that the reason for their revenge doesn't actually apply. The tragedy of their backstory is also very well hidden and unexpectedly ties into Amelia's. Area 62 and Amelia's lost parents are just elements that simmer in the background, but there aren't massive hints spelled out for the audience that would connect them right away. And when it all comes together, it does make sense and connects back to the plot about the Rafconians becoming space nomads. I like how the plot of the villains is mirrored in the other Rafconians, who only stop their evil plans when they see compassion and goodness. It's great narrative cohesion in the themes of your work. I know I've gone off on rants and ramblings about what universes everything takes place in, but it is fun to think about how a colony of Rafconians could also help contribute to the Earth of SPD, where humanity is a part of the galactic community. And oh crap, we're 2 years away from that future at the time of this writing. We better start changing our fashion sense to match. Or maybe they'll retcon it as the dating system of the future being revised to match the rest of the universe, so 2025 to them is actually closer to 2137 or something. Or they'll just ignore it entirely, because why be beholden to the continuity of a series that aired 20 years ago and the target audience didn't watch it? Isn't that right, nostalgic villain from 30 years ago? I kid. Even if SPD isn't acknowledged by then, it just means I have something to joke about in whatever series we get in 2025. Say, you hear about that 30th anniversary special that's coming soon? A lot of interesting behind-the-scenes photos. What hurt the show plot-wise were the more grounded comedy subplots revolving around Jane and Jayborg. We have this big plot about Lord Zedd going to Rafcon and threatening to blow it up if he amasses the power to create new Sporix beasts. I know, let's switch back to an office Nerf war at Buzz Bolaris. I actually would have been fine with this subplot if it wasn't in the Lord Zedd episodes, because, hey, Nerf wars are fun. I've been in a few. Jane and Jayborg, despite being the ones who run and manage this apparently huge social media site, are frequently reporters and presenters themselves on basic clickbaity videos that would make Hallmark's craptastic YouTube channel sigh in embarrassment. It also sometimes feels like Jane's character is at odds with what they establish about her. The first episode? The supernatural does not exist, stop asking for stories about it. A few episodes later, she goes to see a carnival psychic and instantly believes in it. The job of running the place is incredibly difficult and stressful, to the point that she needs a robot assistant, and then she does the jobs of other people or sends a said assistant to do those jobs. Sometimes the subplots won't actually get resolution. We have the setup for it, maybe a follow-up later, and then it's completely forgotten about. In the aforementioned psychic encounter, she is literally put on a bus and then never addressed again. Apparently this comes down to how the show is filmed. Fight scenes are handled by second unit filming and dialogue stuff done by main unit. It's consequently why the show has had less civilian fights. As Simon Bennett put it in a tweet, if the cast is filming civilian fights, there's nothing for the main unit to film other than the comedy duo stuff. But the comedy duo stuff is just not necessary. Sometimes it's funny, sometimes it feels more like fetish fuel. And as I discussed in past seasons, comedy subplots with Power Rangers tend to work better when it's assholes getting their comeuppances, not otherwise well-meaning people getting confused or screwed over through no fault of their own. I don't know, maybe I'd personally enjoy them more if the comedy was more based on wit and wordplay rather than slapstick, because while Jane and Jayborg aren't bad at what they do, slapstick really requires a lot more work on timing setup and the physicality to make it as funny as it can be, and they're just not really that up to it, in my opinion. Now, Jane's actress, Cora Josephson, does actually possess physicality, as she's a professional tap dancer and choreographer, which they actually did incorporate into an episode once, and she posted some behind-the-scenes videos on her Instagram. But it just feels like it's not as good as it should be. Oh, and amusingly, apparently Olivia Tennant, who played Dr. K in RPM, also is a professional choreographer and planned out both the tap sequence and that weird-ass dance sequence last season from Beast Morphers. Kudos if true. Another aspect of the show that was unfortunately a bit weak was the acting for our heroes. It never gets as bad as, say, Troy in Megaforce, but Russell Curry as Zato started as not convincing and ended as only mostly convincing. There's just a chipperness to his voice that he had difficulty making sound natural. He was good in sad, emotional moments, but in casual conversation, he sounded awkward. That might be the idea, what with him being an alien separate from humanity, but it just came across as stilted. Jordan Fight's Ion also just had this kind of weird whispery tone to his voice that I personally found annoying. I was going to say Hunter Dino and Chance Perez as Amelia and Javi respectively were also a bit flat, but honestly they were pretty good too, when the writers gave them a chance to have some variety in the emotions they needed to convey. Whenever Amelia's heart sank, you could see it in her face. Let me tell you something though. Kai Moya as Ollie was good, but Tessa Rao as Izzy was phenomenal. She's the second youngest of the cast after Jordan Fight, though obviously played the youngest, the only character who was still in high school. But she was very clearly the most talented actress among the group, always sounding natural, making every line convincing, and portraying a wide range of emotions. Just an honest-to-God great find for the show. Our other secondary cast included, of course, Ollie's mom, who did good with her material, but the more recurring character was Ranger Garcia. Garcia was apparently originally written to be a sheriff, but the Black Lives Matter movement was at its most prominence at the time of writing and filming, causing them to realize maybe we shouldn't have a cop as a supporting character right now. Unfortunately, the end result is that the law enforcement hierarchy of this town is confusing, because we do see actual cops, and they apparently report to the park warden. Don't screw with the DNR in this town, people. They hold all the cards. He also possesses an arc, starting off as a standard aggressive parental figure, both for living vicariously through his daughter's accomplishments and being judgmental of his son's seeming aimlessness in life post-high school. He does become fully supportive of Javi once it's clear that him becoming more versed in multiple instruments is not something he's doing for funsies, but because it legitimately builds his skills as a musician. That being said, Garcia was still a major asshole when he took his son's keytar, which he spent his own money on, not his dad's, and says he'll return it because Javi just buys instruments to try. That being said, he does not completely shed himself of the living vicariously thing, as he takes photos of himself with his son's trophy at the end of The Copycat. Ion's story boils down to ego. He's overconfident, sure of himself, and expresses a lot of selfishness in his actions and activities. Not only is his re-emergence into the present day about being told by a godlike figure that he's essentially a chosen one, the guy who will stop Lord Zedd, but thanks to him being the one who objected to the Sporix plan while Zato embraced it, that he is a better leader. Time and again we see him wanting the spotlight and prestige of being the leader or benefits of his actions, but needs to be taken down a peg and reminded that you do the right thing because it's the right thing. By the time we get to him actually taking on Zedd, he needed to learn that just because his actions are critical to stopping the Emperor of Evil doesn't mean he's doing it alone. He's also kind of obsessed with food as a comic relief quirk. Zato, of course, ties in with Ion's story because of their shared history. Unfortunately, Zato's arc is probably the weakest of the show, since his character beats are focused primarily on plot-related circumstances rather than on emotional ones. He's pleasant and tries his best to embrace Earth culture, but his story overall is his quest to find Rafcon and his people again. However, his eagerness to reunite with his people only has one focus, where it's about character development, phoning home, when he takes someone's word that they're from Rafcon, and it turns out to be Slyther in disguise. His over-eagerness to reunite with his own kind almost cost them everything. And hey, when the Rafconian refugee shows up, he's learned from his mistake and uses his telepathy to confirm their identities first. Still, at least we get recurring moments of angst from him about not knowing where his people and home are. Admittedly, it feels more like something that just bums him out on occasion as opposed to any really strong sad moments, but it's at least something that they come back to more than once. Honestly, I feel like we should have also had more time to focus on Zato and Ion having survivor's guilt. It's kind of brought up in Waking Nightmare, where they have to fight phantoms of their past teammates, but there's nothing that angsty about the situation, and it isn't dwelled on. Javi's arc ties into his father most. He's a musician, liking to try out multiple instruments, and yet can't seem to settle on a single one. That annoys his father most, that he comes across as directionless and not doing anything with his life. Still, that relationship comes to a head in Jam Session, where Garcia expects his son to show up and support him when he's receiving a medal, but instead he ends up getting recruited to perform in a band. Garcia is pissed about him not showing up to support him, but Javi turns it around and points out that his father refuses to support him in his activities. Still, once the warden sees what he was doing, he realizes that his son was right and supports him in his music career. And hey, it's what he wanted out of Javi. He wasn't against him playing music, he just wanted to settle on something and go with it. But that gets turned around as well. In The Copycat, a disgraced singer plagiarizes one of Javi's songs for a contest at Buzz Belladonna, and he strikes back by performing his song utilizing multiple instruments, elevating his performance and showing off his skills in them. Amelia's main arc is about her parents, but it's not really something dwelled upon. While she of course has beliefs in superstition and the supernatural, it's not until later that we learn that her belief in such things stems from having lost said parents under mysterious circumstances. It's her way of trying to rationalize and seek out answers from what could have been a random freak accident. Admittedly, as we discover later, her parentage is something to do with aliens and the like, but that part is not hinted at all until the end of the series. And while normally I might be annoyed by that, I'm not. Too often in Power Rangers, they make those kinds of twists very obvious, and most kids can put two and two together. But they held off and let it be a genuine surprise and fit with all the established facts they had been setting up. The villain's backstory, Area 62, Pop-Pop's connection with the site and how he didn't want to talk about what happened to her parents. It's all handled very well. Her secondary subplot ties in with Ollie and the growing romance between them throughout the show. What started out as arguments between them about their very different viewpoints grew into genuine affection, and consequently why Ollie's later remarks that dismissed her beliefs or seemed to not care about her views at all were so hurtful to her. But let's get into Ollie. Like Ion, he's overconfident, but this comes from a general arrogance about his own intelligence and belief in rationality and science above all else. He's tech-oriented and indeed smart. When he was younger, he attended a science academy, and we get some very well-crafted storytelling in the episode New Leaf that expands on that. Ollie spent a lot of his time at the science academy working with his teacher. He assumed at the time that he was just so smart that the professor wanted to be best buds with him. Until the professor makes it very clear what was actually happening. His arrogance put off all the other students and nobody else wanted to work with him.
You think you have all the answers, so you never listen. No one likes a know-it-all.
Because when you're an asshole, it doesn't matter how right you are, nobody wants to give you the satisfaction.
This revelation is a serious turning point for him, both in his attitude and his relationship with Amelia, no longer so quick to dismiss her views, even apologizing to her for the way he treated her, and is even willing to help with the scientific investigation of a ghost sighting in the episode The Hunt. After all, Amelia is not against science, she just believes that there are things out there that science has yet to explain. As a side note, we also had the episode Cut Off, where the Rangers are taking a camping trip and he's bringing along a bunch of gadgets and tech. I was so thankful that the episode did not have a message about like, oh, you need to disconnect from technology and go back to nature. It's annoying and frustrating, especially as someone who hates camping. In fact, all the gadgets and tech he brought along help save the day. Sure, some of the devices are a little silly, but they do work, though in the case of the auto-rocking hammock, that's Zato's fault for setting it too high. Izzy's primary arc is a romantic one, but she has a ton of episodes focusing in on her as a character. A somewhat strained relationship with her mother because Izzy is tomboyish and doesn't enjoy girly things, while her mother is a fashion designer who insisted on having her model for her when she was younger. Her relationship with her father and cousin relating to her athleticism, Warden Garcia pushing her to be the best, and consequently her pushing herself to the point of being frustrated with her cousin when she thinks she's blowing off her training. And that while she is great at the athletic parts of school, she doesn't do so well in other stuff, like learning about electronics for one of her high school classes. We also get a great message episode for the younger audience about predatory businesses. In this case, a gym that Izzy wants to get into, run by a famous athlete, who it turns out is running a scam, doing very little work, nickel and diming the attendees for stuff like expensive uniforms and equipment, and lying to them about their own skills and progress for her own benefit. It's good, modern messages to get kids prepared for beyond pollution bad. It's kind of ironic that Izzy, the only character who's still in high school throughout the season, gets some of the most mature storyline stuff when it comes to her romance with Fern. They start out as athletic rivals, love this shot of them glaring at each other on the track field, very Luigi and Mario Kart vibes, but soon start dating. In the run-up to the end of the season, we have the episode Things Unspoken, where we learn that Fern has to move away to college for an athletics program Izzy wanted to get into. It's revealed that Izzy already got in, but she decided to turn it down for the sake of her ranger duties. After Fern says the big "I love you" to Izzy, she then learns that Izzy turned down the program, which would have kept them together. In the end, Izzy tells her the truth about being a ranger, and of course, they plan to do a long-distance relationship. God damn, people. I melted into a puddle from that moment. Oh, and by the way, Izzy and Fern, first on-screen kiss between a couple in 25 goddamn years! Not really anything I can say about Solon. She kind of serves as a quasi-mentor role a couple of times, in particular advising Amelia on how to get over her belief in bad luck and superstition strikes, but otherwise she was more the alpha of the season, with the team not really having an official mentor. Dino Fury is a great season. A bit overblown by the fan base in my opinion, but definitely worth a watch, especially in Season 2. This was a good team with good villains, interesting character dynamics, and a lot of enjoyable lore drops. But for the first time in a very long time, we're not done with this team. We'll see how our heroes continue their journey, the 30th anniversary of Power Rangers, and what Zedd has in store for them next time in Power Rangers Cosmic Fury.
We need help!
I can see that.